Welcome to BookWorthy. Today we're talking with YA author Lindsay Llewellyn about her second YA sci-fi, The Crier Stone. I had the pleasure of meeting Lindsay at a local book event last year and scooped up her first book, The Chaos Grid, which follows Juniper through a Mad Max-style adventure. But in the sequel, The Crier Stone, we go full Blade Runner style into the one place Juniper said she would never go back to. I can't wait to hear more about this book and Lindsay on today's episode. Welcome to BookWorthy, Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We usually start things with a random question, so here's our random question of the week. What is your favorite summer food?
Well, I would probably have to say barbecue and anything on the grill. I love it when my husband goes outside or my son goes outside and they just cook things up, smells so good. So yeah, definitely that.
It is definitely because we're both Texans, so it's a very Texan thing to do, but what is it? It's funny because it's summer, it gets so hot. That's usually when the grill comes out. And it's like this funky, I want to grill, but it's so hot.
The hotter, the better. I think my family likes it. They love it hot. So
that's awesome. Always have the porch ceiling fans going for sure. Lindsay, tell us a little bit about this sequel, The Crier Stone.
Yeah, so book one starts off, it's a Texas wasteland. So it's a world where mankind's attempts to fix nature have backfired and the whole world has descended in chaos. One girl, she joins a crew of truckers to cross the waste and avoid becoming the savior of the city that murdered her parents. Now in book two, we're going to take place a whole lot in these domed cities. So it does have that Blade Runner feel. There's a lot of cybernetics, and enhancements. So yeah, it's just, I like to say it's book one, enhanced, going harder, going faster, and, lots of twists and turns, if you read The Chaos Grid, you're going to get a lot of that in book two.
Chaos Grid is a very fast-paced book. What gave you the inspiration to write this story and The Crier Stone?
It's actually kind of fitting, I think. I came up with the idea while I was driving in DFW traffic. So sometimes that's fast-paced. When I was in it, it was lots of bumper to bumper. But it was super hot outside, and I thought, what if there was a world where this was the wasteland, where Texas was the wasteland? And that idea kind of came to me as I was learning a writing tip that said, write what you know. And I said, well, I know sitting in traffic. So I thought, well, what if everything with sci-fi happened here in Texas? What would that look like? What kind of world would it be? And I thought, well, people still have to get food. If they're living in domed cities away from the wasteland, they still have to get food. And so I was behind a giant truck and I thought, okay, what would it be like to be in one of these big trucks, getting food from one place to another in a kind of a crazy Texas world? So that's kind of where the inspiration.
I love that. Just kind of where you were at. You don't get a whole lot of Texas traffic vibes in the wasteland, but definitely get a lot of heat.
Yeah,
at least in The Chaos Grid. And so I'm really excited for Crier Stone and just kind of that different take. Where are we going to find Juniper as we jump into the Plex and the other dome cities?
Well, she kind of starts off in the grid. So there is a big section of the book and the grid is what we call the wasteland. So the outer grid, and then you have like the inner grid cities. So the outer grid, she'll start off there trying to get and follow her destiny, even though she really still does not want to do it. She cannot stand the people inside that city. So I like to say this is her journey to discover what it means to do what's right when you have every reason not to, because she definitely doesn't have a reason. They murdered her family, but she really still feels that pull to do what's right. And then from there, there's just going to be a whole lot of Blade Runner vibes going on in book two.
Now, in book one, there wasn't very much romance. There's kind of like little hints of attraction between two characters, but are we going to see more of that in book two?
Oh, yes. yes. There's definitely going to be more romance in book two. I like I said, it's just everything that she found in book one moved up another few levels for sure.
Turned up to 11, right?
Yes, definitely.
Too fun. Now, what do you hope to communicate with the young adults that are reading your books?
I really would like, mainly for adventure. I think with fiction, I really want to give people an escape into a new place, but and lots of page turning. So I was a reluctant reader growing up, and so I really want to give people an opportunity to enjoy reading. And I think that's a valuable thing, is reading. But beyond that, I really hope people will see just, who Juniper is, and that they can really relate to that maybe they feel, oh, well, there's no way I can forgive these people, or there's no way I can help somebody else. And what it's like to at first say no, but then later say yes, and what that looks like. And it's not always easy when you say yes. You think, okay, I've said no so long. The saying yes was the hardest part. And it's not always easy, but it is good. And to see that not everything that is hard is bad. Sometimes it can be good. And so I hope that readers will come out with that from reading books 1 and 2.
Very neat. Now, there is kind of a biblical story that the overarching story of the Chaos Grid and the Crier Stone kind of follows a particular biblical story. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how it impacts the book?
Yeah, it's kind of a spoiler, but it follows the book of Jonah. So book 1 follows the first half, and book 2 follows the second half. Now, if you've read the book of Jonah, there's it ends kind of abruptly, I would say. This book does not necessarily end that way, because it's inspired by the book of Jonah. It's not a complete retelling. There's a lot of imagination in this one. Goes lots of different directions, but it does have some very strong similarities to the book of Jonah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fun. I loved kind of finding the little Easter eggs of Jonah's story and the Chaos Grid, and be like, oh, okay, I see where we're going here, but hopefully the Crier Stone will have a complete ending when Jonah doesn't.
Yes, it's a duology, and it completely ends the entire way. There will have, I think they'll have a good satisfaction. Readers will have a good satisfaction when they read the end of the Crier Stone.
Very neat. Now, you are not only an author, but an artist as well. And you have done a bit of a comic book element to the books. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I designed some bookmarks for the books and character art. So that was really exciting. I actually wanted to be a comic book artist when I was younger. So that was something that I really wanted to put in the novel, not only through drawing those kinds of things, but also the writing in and of itself. I really wanted it to follow a comic book feel. So that was pretty exciting to do. And I made a little comic book. I think it's only 2 pages. So, but I gave it to my street team, and they started coloring it. And so that's really exciting to see those that have just started popping up. I love it. I love sharing art. I think art and writing really go well together.
They do. And I remember at our book event that one particular character drew the girl's eyes. Tell us a little bit about Dax.
Oh, yes. So Dax, he is the main shipper, the lead shipper of the crew that she follows through the Crier Stone. And yes, that's one way to get girls to read the books. I'm like, here's Dax. They're like, oh, he's so cute. I'm like, well, he's a little more than cute. He's kind of good-hearted, but yeah, he's cute.
He is a good-hearted guy with a goal. What is it? With his glasses, he's laser focused on his goals.
He is, yeah.
Too fun. Now, Lyndsey, when did your writing journey begin?
I always hear people say I started when I was like 5 years old, and I think that's so cool to have written that long or wanted to write that for that long. I never did. I didn't even like reading until I was a late teenager. I grew up with mild dyslexia, so books did not come easy. I'd have to read the same paragraph 20 times, and I still had no idea what was said. So it still takes me quite a while to read books. But when I was in my 20s, I started teaching Bible to teen girls. And when I was doing that, I thought I saw a lot of the books that they were reading. and they were very dark and they were very not uplifting at all. So it was very depressing kind of literature. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I can write something that is a little bit more uplifting, still adventurous, still have the romance and fun that they like, but teaches hope and teaches good things that I think they could have some good values. So I started writing. But actually, it was I tried. Let me back up. I told my mom, because my mom is a romance writer. I said, you should write these kinds of books. And she said, how about you write that? So I can't write those books. But she was like, yes, you can. So I started writing and I just fell in love with it. Yeah. So a lot of my books are geared towards teenagers because I really love that time of life. And I just feel a calling towards that age demographic right now. So yeah, I just love writing for games.
Well, there's such a, what is it, crucible of a time in your life, just that young adult, young teen, older teen, just, you know, I think I mentioned it with some other YA authors, is it really is, you're making a lot of decisions that are really big and important in that teen age, you know, who you are, who you stand for, you know, or what you stand for, you know, what college you're going to go to, what are you not going to go to college, you know, just what job am I going to have? Just there's all these big decisions that they're faced with. Yes. And a lot of it is who they are and what they believe gets lost in all of that. And I think fiction does a good job with helping them see, oh, I can make these decisions about my own heart and my own mind, because they can just get swept one way or the other, whether by friends, by music, by whatever, culture itself, and just pulled in so many different directions. And I love how there has been this increase in Christian fantasy and Christian fiction, so that kids can get both a fun, adventurous story, but also be reminded of what is true and where to find truth. So did you, when you came to the story, did you want there to be kind of a Christian element, or did you try to shy away from that?
Oh, no. I didn't shy away at all. I started listening to a lot of Christian punk rock music when I was younger, in my teens and early 20s. I was actually in a Christian punk rock band, and no, I love writing lyrics to the Lord, and I love writing, so it's real life and it's exactly what I'm going through. And I don't want to hide it at all. It's like putting your light under a basket. I'm not interested in that at all. So, yes. While that is the case, I still don't want it to be preachy in one way where it's not the story itself. I want it to be very real. And, I think we see that in the Bible. We see people who like Jesus told lots of parables that tell a truth, but as you're listening to it, you're kind of off guard going, what is this story about? What is the prodigal son going to do? Like, what is this guy going to do? His dad kicked him out. He's living with the swine. Like, what's going to happen? And then he turns it around. He tells the whole story. He says, hey, Pharisees, this is what you're like. And this is how it should be. And this is what the kingdom of God is like. And this is how God's character is. But you're so busy listening to the fictional story that you're just all caught off guard. I mean, we see that with Nathan and with David. When David commits adultery with Bathsheba, he says, Nathan comes in, he's like, hey, let me tell this story about this rich man who had a whole bunch of sheep, and this poor man who had this one sheep that he's living with. And the rich man takes his sheep and gives it to his friends for this banquet. And this poor man he lost his only sheep. And David was so outraged. And then Nathan says, you're the rich man who took the sheep. And so he's caught off guard. And then that truth that he knew he was committing adultery, he knew that. But then when he saw that truth through fiction, he goes, oh my goodness, that is me. That is my heart. And so I think that's the power that we have through fiction, is that it can reveal a truth, but you're so busy being caught off guard that you just don't see it. And then all your defenses are down, and it really penetrates the heart. And so, yeah, I think that's why I'm really passionate.
I agree. There's definitely a power in, even like you said, the parables that Nathan told and Jesus told himself. It's like God knows that we need stories. We need to be kind of wooed and moved in different directions, have our heartstrings played in order for us to connect the head and the heart. And I think fiction does an amazing job at that. Now, what is your favorite book?
Okay, you asked that question, and I thought, I have no idea. I like so many books for so many different reasons, so I made a tiny list. I love Fox and Mistress by Nadine Brandes. Those are my two favorite ones that she has written so far. I also love Calculated by Nova McBee, her whole series right there. It's fantastic. I like Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. The ending of that just blew me away. It was such a good ending. And speaking of endings, Memoria, which is by J.J. Fisher. The whole series, her Color series, the Memoria was the best. I loved that book. And then some classics, at least classics to me. It's like Hunger Games and Divergent and those kinds of books. Definitely love all those.
All kind of within that genre that you enjoy, love, and are writing for. So that's kind of fun to see you play in your own sandbox, in a sense.
Yes.
Now, what's been the most impactful book in your life, other than the Bible?
Yeah. That one would be The Scarlet Pimpernel. And the reason The Scarlet Pimpernel was so impactful is because, like I told you, I had dyslexia. And so I didn't like to read. And one day I came home. I can't remember if it was middle school or high school, but I told my mom I had to write a paper on a classic, and I couldn't read it that fast. And I said, what am I going to do? I can't read a whole book like that by myself and write a paper. I came home crying. And she said, okay, let's look at your paper. She found one of the books on there. She got it for me. And she said, okay, we're going to read it together. We're going to read the first chapter, and we're going to do this. And she said, you're going to love it because there's romance and sword fights and spies. And I said, in a classic novel? She said, yes. I said, okay. So we read it. And after the first page or two, said, I got it. And so I went to my room and I barreled through that thing. It was not easy, but I really enjoyed it. So that showed me that I can read fiction and I can read big books and not just comic books, which is what I was used to. I could read a big novel. So definitely that story.
I love that. I have a dyslexic kid in my own house, so we kind of have that same story as we usually, he gravitates towards comic books and graphic novels, and it's fun to challenge him a little bit and to start a book or start a series. And like, I'm only reading book one. If you want to find out the rest, you get to read it.
Yes, you got to hook them.
What? What? Like, yeah. And so, what are ways that you would encourage other parents that have kids with dyslexia and are reluctant readers to help encourage them to be a reader?
I would say just continual reading times is something that really helped with me. Is you don't have to read a huge thing, because sometimes with dyslexia and such, you see a huge part of text and you get like anxious. Like if I see an epic fantasy, I'm just like, I can't read. That's so much reading. And so you think, oh, I have to take this huge bite all at once. And it's like, no, you don't have to take a huge bite. Take a little bit of a paragraph and stuff, and then go on. So some books that have really short chapters that are very engaging through those chapters help. So there's a book series by J.R. Hannibal, and it's called Bear Night is the first one. And that book series it's young adult, but I think it's really good for middle grade too, and for kids with dyslexia, because the chapters are only like 2 or 3 pages, and they have got really good hooks at the end of those. And so you can take those bites. And now you were talking about kids with comic books. Usually people with dyslexia have a tendency towards visual arts. And so encouraging kids with visual arts, I think, is really good and say, hey, you got keep going with that visual art. And look, there's a comic book you can read as you're going. And so as I was reading the comic books, I was learning story. And so I understood where the beginning, middle, end was, where the climax and the cliffhangers were. And I love that about comic books is they always end on a big, huge cliffhanger. You've got to get the next one. So that's one of the things I took away is in my books, I wanted to end on that cliffhanger because that will help reluctant readers, because they're like, okay, it was hard, but I really want to know what happens next. And so, books like that are really helpful, I think, for
what is it? The R.L. Stein's Goosebump books. That's kind of one of his biggest tips is every chapter ends on a big gasp. You're like, somebody is stepping up behind them and end chapter. And you're like, no. And so, yeah, there's this need to keep reading and keep going. And so it's definitely a way to give that reward system, that desire to continue to read and get a reward. The reward is finding out what happened next. And
if you want to know what your kids like, what kind of TV shows do they like? What kind of movies do they like? Books that are similar in that genre will help them to read, because sometimes people say, I don't like to read. I'm like, well, you just haven't found what you like to read yet.
Yep.
No.
That's a quote I use often, when I'm at school visits and they're like, how many people like to read? And they're like, and some people raise their hand and some kids don't. And so like, who doesn't like to read? And they raise their hands. They're like, we're going to find a book for you, I promise. And so it's just, you kind of see them go, there's a book for me. And I was like, that's right, there is. You just have to find it. And so it's fun to kind of find those kids that, don't like to read and be like, it's out there. You just have to keep looking. And that kind of makes it fun. Now, what can we expect next from you, Lindsay?
So next coming up, and it's going to be The Crier Stone. And I think it will either have been released or it's really close to being released. And so that is the conclusion of that. I am working on a fantasy and a sci-fi right now at the same time. Why not write 2 books at once?
Why not?
No idea what will come from that. I do have a middle grade steampunk novel that I have written, and I'm trying to get that one out. So hopefully we'll see some progress on that soon as well.
Very exciting. Now, where can people find out more about you and your books?
Just at my website, so LindsayLlewellen.com, and there's so many L's, and I'll try to spell it. It's Lyndsey, then LEWELLEN.com. Or you could just find me on Instagram. Either of those were fine.
Too fun. You are fun to follow on Instagram. You always have some really amazing graphics and reels and stuff going on, because that artistic side seems to come out. And you also paint shoes, don't you?
I have them next to me because I wondered if you'd ask me about them. So, yes, I paint on shoes, and these are ones I'm doing for the Crier Stone. I'm slowly getting them painted, just on canvas shoes. I only do about 2 a year because they take so long to do. I have, like I said, I'm writing 2 books at once, and I have my other design
2 books,
job.
painting, you're a parent, you have a farm. Yeah. Let's just add it all.
It's just so much. But yes, usually 2 a year, and I like to make them book related, so they're kind of fun to do.
Too fun. I might have to get some tips. I have some ideas.
Okay.
Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Valerie.
And thank you for joining Lindsay and me on this episode of the BookWorthy podcast. Check the show notes for any books or links that we discussed, and let us know in the comments what's your favorite summertime food. Be sure to check out the BookWorthy Summer Reading Challenge and like and subscribe to discover more great books together. Happy reading!